Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyid al-Anbiya wal Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Dear viewers, listeners, students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are here with a session about the paper 2 of Islamiyat, that is 2058 syllabus for IGCSE. Today we're going to talk about the questions that you have been raising for a couple of days, and inshallah ta'ala we're going to first start with what is paper 2 and how to attempt that paper. We're going to start with that first, but then gradually as your questions comes in, I'll be answering your questions. Now with reference to the questions, you can either send me the question in the YouTube, or you can send me those questions via the WhatsApp as well, so in your groups. So inshallah ta'ala, but if you at this moment, if you're live with me, if you ask me the questions regarding on the YouTube, that'll be great, because there'll be one place where I can get the questions from. But if you want to ask me the questions on the WhatsApp as well, you can do that as well. Okay, so the first thing first is how do we attempt the paper? Muhammad asked this question, and so let's see how do we attempt this question. Number one, in this paper 2, the first question that you come across is of Hadith. So there will be 4 passages given to you, and out of those 4 passages you have to do 2, right? So out of 4 Hadith passages you will be doing how many? 2. So 2 passages you will be doing. Right. So that's a little easier thing as well. Now, when we look at, so that's question number 1. And remember, you have to write within that area, or within the space which is given to you. So by paper 1, you may have realized now, excuse me, that you were given a booklet. So in the booklet there were questions, and on there you had the space where you answer. The question number 2 is, so question 1 is compulsory and question number 2 is compulsory as well. So question number 2 comes from unit number 6, plus Hadith for community and Hadith for individual. So those questions will be asked there as well. Now let me just quickly see if there is any question. Assalamu alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. So questions, no. All right. So I would remind all of you to please make sure that if you have any questions, just ask me. Okay, on the YouTube you can write down your questions, and also where you can ask me on the WhatsApp as well. Okay, so we were talking about the second compulsory question comes from unit number 6, plus Hadith for individual, Hadith for community. So where these 2 questions comes from? Unit number 5. So those are hadiths that you've studied in unit number 5, which are related to individual. You're going to be writing the question, the teachings of ahadith regarding individual. And those ahadiths which talk about community, and so you will be writing the teachings of those ahadiths regarding community. So, and Hafiz Hanzala asked me a question, like he identified few of the ahadiths and he said that, can I mention any more ahadith while writing hadith for community? Yes, alhamdulillah, you can, right? But remember, we have to make sure the construction of the question. We got two constraints, my dear students. One is the time, and the second is the content that you're writing. So many a times you know the topic very well, but you cannot, what do you call it, write 4 pages on that topic. It has to be within the parameters, or within the area which is allocated to you, or within the space allocated to you. It has to be answered within that. Okay, I received probably some questions. What is important in unit number 6? Uh, Fatima has asked me the question. Fatima, number 1, unit question number 2 is very critical, my dear. So therefore, it's not something that you leave something and you do something else and you say, okay, that's enough. No. For an A-star students, for an A grade students, right, you don't miss out anything. This is a wrong perception which is developing by the C and D grade students, and which have been eventually adopted by the A-star students as well, that they go for selected or the guest papers to some extent. They go for it. No, you are aiming for the highest level. So your preparation should be of the highest level. So remember this in the mind, right? I know it's very difficult. People are giving you lots of shortcuts. Now, if you remember, I used to talk about the uncles, right? And then Eid was there on top of it. So this had multifold impact on that. So focus what's given to you, what resources you have, that is your book, your helping notes, and your study which you have done. Just focus on that, please, right? Rather than focusing on 101 resources which are available to you. Right. So let me very briefly go through what is very important in unit number 6. The first thing is, you got to know what is hadith, what is the difference between hadith and sunnah. So that's the first thing. And then once you know that, then we move on and we talk about the uh, the compilation of hadith itself. So compilation of hadith is important because how the hadith was compiled. Then we have the methods of preservation of hadith. So methods are as important. If you say that they are not important, if he can ask you a 4 marks question, he can ask you a 10 marks question on there. So that's one thing. Some of the transmitters of the, although that's not very important, but that's a question which cannot be ignored. Abdullah said to me a thing a while ago. He said that the types of hadith question has not come for some time, so this means we don't do it, right? The thing is, there are some important questions which are on the table of the examiner, right? And so that does not mean that those questions are not important, right? So those questions always, some of the questions, there are some questions which always come to your table every year. So types of hadith question is one. It just came to my mind, so I just mentioned it to you. So transmitters of the hadith, that is Abu Hurairah radiallahu, Abdullah bin Masud radiallahu anhu, and Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu, Sayyida Aisha radiallahu anha. So all these, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, all these transmitters are there. Then we move on to the earliest collections of hadith. This is again very important. You got to know those books, you got to know the facts on that. And Fatima just scared me. She said, I have not done anything of unit number 6. So Fatima, it does not mean you have not done anything. So you started to go for the selective study or something. You still have time. You can do a whole unit 6 today. That is 6th of May. We're doing this the session today. Then we move on to compilation in centuries. This topic is under discussion since yesterday. I've been noticing, and Rayan asked me a question as well. He texted me that Rayan, can you type in that question regarding the compilation in centuries, please? Can right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, we are receiving questions from all of you. The first question, uh, what is the best way to go through Unit 8 since most of the past papers have 2 or 3 questions from Unit number 8? That's Rihanna has asked this question. Rihanna, I'll come back to you because I'm going through Unit number 6, then when I go to Unit number 7, I'll come to that. Then Haris says, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam, Haris. Then we have uh, Haris says, tell us about Battle of Yarmouk. When I come to unit number 7, Haris, I'll talk about that. And then, oh yeah, Rihanna shared a question with us that the question is, write an account of the compilation of Hadith during the period of the successors of the successors, that is Taba Tabi'een. Okay, my question to you, Law, those who have joined me on the YouTube, which century? Remember, we have compilation of the first century, in the second century, and then we have third century onwards. So where this the answer of this question will come. I repeat the question again. We know that there are 3 centuries. One is the first century compilation, the second century compilation, and then it's third century onwards, right? So the question is the compilation of hadith during the period of the successors of the successors. So Fatima has come up with an answer third. Haris says third. Ryan says it was third century onwards. Yes, this is third century onwards. So you see, this is a 4 marks question that came in, and which is actually a 10 marks question. The compilation in centuries, if you go onto the page number of the book of 195, I'm referring to the book of Dr. Iftakharul Haq and Sheikh Jahangir Mahmood, the O-level Islamiyat book. When I refer to the book, I always refer to that book, right? And so on that one, if you go to page number 195 and 196, so we are talking about that. So in there, we have compilation of hadith in the first century, the second century, the third century. So each one of them, so you write what happened there, and then you give an example. Example is very important. Even if you're writing a 4 marks question, let's say about this third century onwards, you have to write an example. The example is very important. Then we move on to types of hadith. Let me see the questions first before I move on to types of books of hadith. Then, oh, very good. MashaAllah, Fatima said that, Alhamdulillah, I know this. At least you know a question now in the unit number 6. So we have started the preparation for unit number 6. No need to get scared. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with the Eid, blessed you with Ramadan, blessed you with days, and inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be doing very good in paper number 2, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. Then Fatima has asked another question. Do we need to learn examples? Yes, examples are very important. Whether it's types of books of hadith, whether it's types of hadith, whether it's compilation in the centuries, you have to mention the examples of all of the topics that I just mentioned to you. So that's very, very important. That's very, very important. Okay, so yeah. So let's move on. And I was talking about the types of books of hadith. So this is something, if you remember when I started teaching you law, unit number 6, I said it's a grave mistake in this unit if you mix types of books of hadith and types of hadith together. I've seen papers where we asked types of books of hadith and people are writing types of hadith. And guess what would have happened to them? They said, I've filled in the whole 2 pages, but the examiner gave them 0, sometimes 0.5 or 1 marks. Right? So please do not make this mistake. You got to be absolutely clear, right, that what is the difference between the 2. So types of books of hadith, again, as I said to you, the definition, write about it, and then the examples. Anyone has any questions regarding this types of books of hadith. Let me see the WhatsApp as well. Uh, okay, then you. Okay, so this was about no questions so far regarding the uh, books of hadith, and yeah, so I'll move on to types of. Then we have what the different parts of hadith. This is a 4 marks question. You know the sanad and matan. You talk about it. What has hadith comprises of, and there is an example there. Please make sure you know that example, and with that you will explain that. Or what you can do is you can learn an example, because you will be learning the examples for sahih, hasan, mawdu, and da'if. For these 4 types of hadith, you will be giving learning examples. If you have not, and you have been trying very hard not to learn them, please learn it now, right? And some of you will say, oh, what if I don't do it? Because in the past there are numbers specifically assigned for the examples. Because in this question, the types of hadith or categories of hadith, this is a question which the examiner first they say, okay, have you mentioned the types well? Okay, tick. Have you described them well? Okay, tick. Then have you given them example? Tick. So chances are you will get 8 or even maybe 9 if your presentation is good. If you're writing in paragraphs and all that, and your writing is very you can see clearly, the examiner can easily read that. So these are the things which really helps them you to get more marks from this. Then so this question, one thing I would like to mention, there are a few questions. Let me go. And Yunus Onford is becoming difficult for me, Rayan says. Then Abdullah Ajmal, sir, I have a question. Abu Bakr steps against refusals to visit the car. What should we add in that answer? Okay. Abdullah Haris, very good questions. The moment I come to unit number 7, I'll address your questions, inshallah ta'ala. And at the moment, I'm doing unit number 6, right? So your questions on unit number 6, I am looking at that. Now, the question regarding categories of hadith, please listen this with great attention. The questions regarding categories of hadith, you start with that the hadith is divided into 2 main parts: hadith Qudsi, hadith Nabawi. Very briefly describing what is hadith Qudsi and what is hadith Nabawi. Remember, you cannot make any bullet points, you cannot make any points, you cannot make any headings. So everything got to be in paragraphs, right? So these 2 types of hadith. Then hadith Nabawi, you say that these are the 4 types, the 4 types of hadith: Sahih, Hasan, Mawdu, Da'if. Okay. Now, Abdullah showed me a question in which the examiner asked a question about these 3. Because Da'if or Maudu actually is a fabricated. So it's not technically, it's not a type of hadith, right? And so therefore, what do you call it? So they asked about 3's 3. So now you have to be more competitive here. So now you understand. If you just write about, okay, this is, and now, so you've written it down, your definition written, and how we accept them. If you remember, I showed you a table in which we showed you that what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So then you tell the examiner that this had, let's say for example, Sahih is acceptable because its matan and its sanad both are perfect, right? And then so on. And then if you remember, we had two conditions. Sometimes we accept da'if hadith, and sometimes we do not accept da'if or weak hadith, right? So you mentioned that as well. And then you conclude it with the what do you call it, with examples and all that. And if you want further more information, Dr. Iftikharul Haq, in his the Red Spot publications, Salt Pass papers, he has mentioned little more details on there. If you have time, so you can look at them as well. That's fine as well. Then we come to a very important questions with most of you on, because it comes at the end of the unit and many of you miss this question. The question is the main features of 6 collections of ahadith, that is Siha Sitta. So these ones are very important. So make sure Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari, a question can come on them as a 10 marks question. So make sure Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari are prepared really well. Then within those questions, we talk about the muhaddithin, that like we talk about Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Imam Nasa'i, and so forth. So you got to know about them as well. So this question, I repeat again, these 6 authentic collections of hadith, this is not just 6 books. The Sahih Bukhari is a 10 marks question. Sahih Muslim is a 10 marks question. And then 6 of them together, right, is a 10 marks question. Done up till here. Then he can ask you a 4 marks question about, there is another 10 marks question that he will combine the 2 books, Bukhari and Muslim, for example, or any other 2 books he will ask you particularly. So be ready for that. This question has little variations, so please prepare it well. And in helping notes, it's in points, so this will be very useful for you as well. And all right, let's look at the questions. Abdullah, importance of compilation of hadith. Abdullah has asked, what point should we add for the importance of compilation of hadith? It's very, my dear. If you attempting the whole question, that's a piece of cake, to be very honest, Abdullah. Right? So why are we, number one, importance of hadith. You got to know this. Before you answer this question, what is the importance of hadith? Can you write 4 lines on there? Right? So if you not, then write, get your 4 points there first. The next question is, why they compiled, why it was important to compile those ahadith. So just come up with some 5 points on there. If you're still finding it difficult, right, then go through that question, right? Because this is something significant, because this is not only, this is preservation, this is part of the preservation of the sunnah. Because if sunnah is not preserved, then our one source of Islamic law becomes doubtful. We get a question mark there, right? And that's not acceptable to us, right? So therefore, it was important, and to make sure that even we talked about that Imam Suyuti probably wrote a book of distinguishing, and many other scholars wrote the books on distinguishing the literature of uh, the Mawdu ahadith from the rest of the collections of ahadith. So they separated it. So this is a very extensive study. And why it was done? Because compilation of hadith was important to them, right? Okay, then we move on to Islamic law. In Islamic law, I've been all the time same here. Quran as a source of Islamic law. I don't think so. This question will be asked, but the Quran and Hadith as a source of Islamic law or a primary source of this question is a hot question, my dear. So, after authenticity of the Hadith, I think it will be, maybe if it has come 9 times, so the 10 times would be, what do you call it, the Quran and Hadith as a source of Islamic law. So something like that. So, so this is something which is important, and please make sure you do that. And then the question that is all four sources together. This is in unit number 2 and page number, uh, let me go through it. It should be somewhere around, can someone help me to find the question? The all sources, the Quran, uh, or the all source, how the all sources are related with each other, right? Like Quran, Hadith, Ijma, and Qiyas together. And if you look at page 4950, you will find there as well, page 49 and 50. So, Hadith as a source of individual conduct and Hadith as a source for communal, Hadith for community. That's again the two questions I've already discussed in the beginning. And then use of Hadith in legal thinking. Use of Hadith in legal thinking, or Hadith as a source of Islamic law. This question is on page number 207, 208. Please do that. So, coming back to Fatima's question, the two most important questions of unit number 6. Number 1 is authenticity of the Hadith, right? And the 4 marks question that is related to it. Number 2 is the Hadith and Quran and Hadith as, or the, as a source of Islamic law, or the primary sources of Islamic law. So these questions are the main questions which needs to be done. Then we move on to the Islamic law and Hadith as a source of Islamic law. And then we have examples of ahadith working out Islamic law. Then we have Sunnah and Ijma. And then we have very good examples of Sunnah and Qiyas. So these, I think there are around 10 to 12 examples there. So they are enough for you, and please go through them. They're very, very important. So we are done with unit number 6. I give you another uh, 20 seconds or so to tell me or ask me questions regarding unit number 6. Rahim. We, all right, everyone. So we move on now to unit number 7. Unit number 7 is about rightly guided caliphs. You all know about it. First, we talk about Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. In this, the first 10 marks question is election of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. Then we move on to there are 3 parts in the conquest of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, or events in the caliphate of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Now, this question of events in the caliphate of Abu Bakr Siddiq, Sayyidina Umar, is very, very important. I've been saying this since December 2021. So please make sure that if you have not listen to me for the last 3 days and get these 2 questions very nicely prepared. So Sayyid Ajmal's question I'll ask in advance and answer that in advance, that prepare these 2 questions. That is, events in the caliphate of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq and in the caliphate of Sayyidina Umar. So, compilation of the Quran is the first one. Then we moved on to the, the Ridda wars, the wars against the false caliphs, so false prophets, excuse me, the wars against the false prophets. So those that Tuleha, Musalma and Sajjan also mentioned, Aswad al-Ansi. So then we move on to the now against the people who refuse to pay the zakat. Right. So the people who refuse to pay the zakat. So those people were then Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu dealt with them harshly. So you just give them a little introduction, like why these people came in and why they refused to give zakat as well. And then you mention like how Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq dealt with them and eventually get rid of this fitna. There is a 4 marks question. I was seeing that as well, that why it was important to get rid of this fitna, or to curb this fitna. The reason why, because today they're asking, give us some compensation, or we're not going to give you zakat or something. The next day they can say, okay, fives are very difficult, we'll just pray one salah. Fasting, we live in Arabia and it's very difficult, so therefore no fasting. So this sort of things could have easily happened. So what is important is that so it was important that no compromise on that, and that was a very daring decision by Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Eventually, you finish that. Now, the next question comes with, we move on to Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu's caliphate, and administration comes into action as well, the administration of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, and then conquest towards Persian. The question can be asked regarding the Persian Empire and regarding the Roman Empire, but that's not very much likely, right? So the questions I've already mentioned, they're more important than the others. So strange. Okay, so these are the questions regarding that. And let me see, some more questions were coming in regarding about unit number 7. So which 2 are the main battles Sayyidina Umar's main battles, I'll not answer that. What are the two main battles in the time of Sayyidina Umar? Can someone answer that, please? Give me the two battles. Let's say the question is, write about two battles in the caliphate of Sayyidina Umar. Yes, please. The house is open. Tell me the two battles in the time of Sayyidina Umar. Yes. So, yes, come on, write down the two battles in the time of Sayyidina Umar. The two main battles, I would say. Anyone? Let me see. Okay. Harris came up with that. Harris said Battle of Bridge and Battle of Yarmouk. Okay, good. And then we have, come on, Ryan, what do you think? And could you also tell others, please join us? Is there any second name of Battle of Yarmouk? Okay, I'll look into that. But if you remember the details of the Battle of Yarmouk, that would be great. Yes, please. Battle of Bridge and Battle of Yarmouk. There's one important battle you all are missing. It starts with Q. Yes, please. Which battle is that which starts with Q? And it happened in the time of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. Battle of Qadisiyah. Very good. So I would prefer Battle of Qadisiyah over uh, the Battle of Bridge is important as well, but Battle of Yarmouk and Battle of Qadisiyah, they are important battles in Sayyidina Umar's, and you can write about them as well. Same goes for I don't think so that question can be asked, but be ready for that. So just like two battles in each caliph. We know Battle of Siffin, Battle of Jamal and Sayyidina Ali. So similarly in Sayyidina Usman's time, two battles in which you can write something about. It's not something right in two lines you finish the battle and all that. So that's something. Uh, this is the battle I was talking about, the Battle of Qadisiyah. And yes, so then we move on to any other questions, please. Any other questions regarding Sayyidina Umar or Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Sayyidina Usman's, we move on. Sayyidina Usman's And yes, another very important question of Sayyidina Umar is administration of Sayyidina Umar. And the question the Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu as a savior of Islam, or the Sayyidina Umar's time as a golden period of Islam. These 4 marks question are very famous ones as well. So then we move on to administration of Sayyidina Umar and importance of Umar radiallahu anhu as the caliph. And okay, then the third one is Sayyidina Usman radiallahu anhu, his election. Then the main events during Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu's. In Usman radiallahu anhu, uh, the questions like we get in Sayyidina Abu Bakr's, like events, battles, and all that, it may not come. The questions which may be asked regarding Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu will be the difficulties faced by Sayyidina Usman radiallahu anhu, and the challenges which he faced. So these questions are more important than the events themselves. So that question on page 227 is very, very important regarding Sayyidina Usman. And please go through that question as well. Siege of Jerusalem as a 10 marks question. I don't think so. Abdullah has asked a question. And what were the reasons for the unrest? Haris has asked this question. Unrest against Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala. Now, when you attempt this question, like why there was, if you go to the helping notes, you'll find those reasons as well. There are 3 main reasons. Number one, the overwhelming structure of the government, because it was so big. On one side you have Mauritania, on the other side you have Afghanistan. So it was very difficult to manage them. One. Number two is modes of communication, right? Even till today, it's very difficult to manage a place like Afghanistan. So imagine in those days where there is no internet, no telephone, or no satellite communication, nothing present there, and you managing all these people. And remember, new people are converting to Islam, and new fitnas are coming into action, right? So dealing with that. So those are the reasons for the and difficulties faced. Number 227 to 228. So that is a very important question in Sayyidina Osman's caliphate. So please, that should be perfect. So I hope I've answered this question of yours, Haris. Then we have Abdullah is asking that question about that siege of Jerusalem as a 10 marks question. I doubt it. I doubt this question where it can come as a 10 marks question. Uh, it can come as a 4 marks question, something referring to it, and also be a 5+5 combination with the Battle of Qadisi or something. That can be done, but that will be covered in the what do you call it, this events, when you will be doing the battles and all that. It will be all done and dusted. And administration of Sayyidina Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, importance of Sayyidina Usman. There are 2 questions. Importance of Sayyidina Usman's martyrdom and importance of Sayyidina Usman as a caliph. These are 2 different questions. Don't mix them together. Importance of Sayyidina Usman, martyrdom, and importance of Sayyidina Usman as a caliph. So these are 2 different questions. Please don't mix them together. So we move on to the 4th right regarding caliph. Let me see if there is mashallah, Mateen has joined in, although Mateen is not allowed. But anyway, hope you're doing well. Great listening to you after a long time. Alhamdulillah, may Allah bless you and take good care of yourself. And okay, And what do you call it? Inshallah ta'ala, when we meet next time, I'll serve you with good biscuits, inshallah. Okay, but provided you do good in Urdu paper. That's okay. Jannat has joined us. Jannat, so please tell us how to manage time. Good question, Jannat. I'll come to that. Uh, if I don't mention that, just remind me again. Okay, and I'll do that. Importance of Sayyidina Osman's martyrdom. Abdullah, how can this be a 10 marks question? You tell me. This is a topic which importance is majority of the time is a 4 marks question. Importance of an event, importance of a personality is 4 marks question, right? The Now Abdullah immediately came up with a new question. Let me show you that. Right, may Allah bless you, Abdullah, and may Allah give you the ability. Now this was Abdullah came up with this, and then Abdullah came up with this question. Okay, what about the account? Right, account is sometimes 10 marks question, but uh, in our syllabus the focus is on the caliphate rather than on the martyrdom. I hope you're getting my point. So we have to prepare the caliphate. That's more important. Okay. Then so that's the thing. And then we have Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala. Selection or election of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala is something very important. Please make sure you prepare that. And yeah, so election with facts. Okay, don't do any stories. With all the elections, your facts should be very, very clear. If they are not, then you're gonna be struggling. Okay, then we move on to the difficulties faced by Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala. Right, this is another very important question. And so that one, the difficulties, please go through this question. It will cover many other small questions which comes within it, so you will be okay with that. Then we move on to the next question, that is the battle of Jamal, the battle of Camel. Now I would request all of my students all around the world, when you're writing these topics, particularly Battle of Jamal, Battle of Siffin, you should not be side to anyone. You are not a judge, right? To to say that okay, Sayyidina Ali was right, or Sayyidina Aisha was right, or Sayyidina Ali was right, or Sayyidina Muawiyah was right. You just write it down, the event. That's it. So this is something we got to be very, very clear in that. Okay. So Battle of Camel. So you do that, and then we have Battle of Siffin. These are two very important questions. Examiners do that, ask that questions, and then administration of Sayyidina Ali and importance of Sayyidina Ali as a caliph, and also a 4 marks question on importance of Sayyidina Ali's martyrdom. So this was the caliphates of unit number 7, and the next one. The next one is a very important 10 marks question, that is government and administration of the rightly guided caliphs and the status of non-Muslim communities in the rightly guided caliphs. These are 10 marks question I'm talking about, right? So these are the 10 marks question. Then another one, rightly guided caliphs as a role model for the Muslim rulers of today. So this question is also a 10 marks question. So please make sure that you do these questions, and otherwise, what do you call it, it's going to be a little difficult. Uh, okay, so these three questions that I was talking about, the Ratigari Caliphs as a role models, Ratigari Caliphs government, and their relation or the status or their uh, how they dealt with the non-Muslims in the community. These are 10 marks question, and make sure you do that. Okay, now my suggestion is we stop here. We stop here, and I want everyone that, okay, we still have one part of the evening left. So let's do very nicely the unit 6 and 7 today. And then at night around 9 o'clock, I will send a question of past paper. All of you do that question, and tomorrow, probably in the morning or in the afternoon, most likely in the afternoon, depending on my schedule that I have, I will give you 1 hour before that. I'll tell you that, I'm going to be there online. 1 hour prior notice will be given. So we will discuss about that, how you solved it, and then unit number 8. Right. So my suggestion is, I'm still open for your inputs, right? That let's stop here and let's consolidate today in the evening unit number 6 and unit number 7. So once we have consolidated them, then we can move on tomorrow to unit number 8. Any suggestions, any ideas you have, please let me know. I am waiting for your suggestions for another 30 seconds or so. Let me check the WhatsApp as well, if there are any questions there as well. Uh, who is this? Anyway, somebody sent me a question. On Shahada, I'll look onto that as well. I'll add that as well. And no questions so far in this group. Let me have another. Okay, we've no questions on the WhatsApp, and on the YouTube, there are no questions as well. Okay, so it's Asr time as well. So let's stop here and take good care of yourself. And inshallah ta'ala, I'll see you again tomorrow with a session on unit number 7 and unit number 8. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.